Right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Rushcast, the show where we are going through the entire Rush back catalogue, including solo albums, side projects, and all in between. I'm Joe. I'm John. I'm joined, I was going to say. It's me, Joe from Nightmare Cabin. You know me, but I am joined as ever by my co-host, Mr. Paul Conroy, drummer extraordinaire. And have I got his CD here? Yes, under a pile of CD. Here we go. Audio Scope, Secrets and Lies. Check out their debut album. And this week we are doing 1989's Presto. And how you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm okay, Joe, apart from the technical gremlins. But it's been a good week so far. Obviously back into the throes of work tomorrow as you are. So making the most of today.
Yeah, we will be at work when this goes out. We're recording this the day before on Thursday, but it's going out on noon Friday. Yeah. And we had some technical difficulties before where Paul's laptop just did not want to work.
No, exactly.
But we got through it, and you lot don't know. You didn't see it, so it's fine.
No, exactly.
So picking up really from where we left off, we last week we did Hold Your Fire, and it was quite funny. After that episode, I was referencing an article where this magazine did a series of articles where they defend the black sheep of a band's back catalogue, and I mentioned in Decibel magazine, which is a predominantly metal magazine, they do a series of articles called "Justify Your Shitty Taste," which is the same premise. And lo and behold, I was looking at that, and Hold Your Fire was actually in that as well. So it seems like there is a bit of a brimming appreciation society for Hold Your Fire, and I've been getting mixed results as well, because when I've been putting, by the way, folks, give us a comment in below what you think of whatever we're talking about, because more people seem to comment on the post when I share the video than they do comment on the actual show. Leave the comments here. This is where it counts. But yeah, I think it seems to equally go. It's either that is the low point of the band for me, or that's actually one of my favourite Rush albums. Like it's an odd one. But I think with Presto, we're carrying on with this era of the band, which probably started with, I wouldn't say Grace Under Pressure. Maybe
more Signals, actually.
Probably Signals. But with Signals through to Power Windows, there was still progressive elements in it. But Hold Your Fire was the second album to be produced by Peter Collins, and apparently they were all ready for Peter Collins to work on this album, but it was actually Peter Collins that pulled out on this one, and they got
Rupert Hine.
Rupert Hine, and but I do think this does carry on from Hold Your Fire, but I do feel the progressive elements are seeping back in. I feel Hold Your Fire was very accessible. What I've come to think of as the talk show days. It felt like this current run of albums, I see big shoulder pads, and I see a talk show with some comedian come talk show host going, and next in the studio we have Rush performing a single from their new album. Here's Rush, and then we got then enter whatever song you want here. And it does feel this carries on a little bit on this one. But with that being said, I do feel sort of Grace Under Pressure, Power Windows style progression is seeping back into the songwriting bit by bit on this album. It feels like, I've said before, that it feels like Rush, they see something through to its conclusion and they go, right, we've gone as far as we can go with this. We need to start going back the other way now. We know where this leads. Let's come back, carry on, and see what else we can pick up along the way. So with the progressive long songs, we kind of hit the peak with that on Hemispheres. And it seems like the radio rock, for a better term, it seems like that's reached its logical conclusion on Hold Your Fire, and now they're starting to introduce elements from the past in what they've learned in this let's write 3 to 4 minute pop songs. Does that feel right to you? What did you think? You were there when it came out.
Well, yeah. This album was released after their longest break from releasing Hold Your Fire. It was just over 2 years. So there was that anticipation again, certainly personally, to think, right, well, what are they going to come up with next? Because it was released right at the back end of the 80s. Says here, release date 21st of November 1989. So this was their last 80s release. You've obviously already covered about Rupert Hine coming in. The comment here is what my feelings are. Is probably best summed up here, what I've got in front of me. Because obviously, after Hold Your Fire came the next live album, which is A Show of Hands. And it says here, as the live album Exit Stage Left had heralded the end of the prog rock era for Rush. So the latest live release, A Show of Hands, signalled the end of the band's synthesizer era. What else? Band had become almost unrecognisable from the rock power trio. Excuse me, had released from their debut 13 years prior. Presto was a deliberate reaction to this and an effort by the band to return excuse me to a simpler, more original sound. Excuse me, Joe.
That's all right. Have a swig. Yeah, I forgot about A Show of Hands, actually, the live album in between. So thanks for pointing that out. We will be covering the live albums at the end of when we come to the end of the studio run. So once we get to Clockwork Angels, then we're going to be doing Envy of None, Alex's new project, and then we're going to do a show where we're just going to go through all the live albums. So yeah, with that being said, I do tend to skip over them, but let's see if you're all right there. But yeah, it seems like this is the start of a new era where we're going to start verging into a new soundscape of Rush. But I suppose we'll get into the songs. So the album starts with Show Don't Tell, and there's a lot going on in this song. It's got like a bit of a jingly jangly intro where you've got a few different bits coming along, and then the whole thing just comes together into that first verse. But in that first initial listen, you sort of go, well, what's going on here? You know, there's a bit of a jazzy sounds, like jazzy riff going on, some cool complex drum patterns, but then it comes together in that nice quiet verse. Builds up to quite a catchy chorus, the Show Don't Tell chorus, but then it goes quite ambient-y and adventurous in the middle. It's got a nice little mid-section. But yeah, we're back to the interesting album opener, I think. And it's got some pretty this is another one as well, actually. The interesting lyrics are back. I felt Hold Your Fire was a bit with the lyrics, but this one's got the thought-provoking lyrics again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're back in the room, Paul.
Yeah, I am for the moment. I do apologise. Massive coughing fit, but I found the mute, so I made sure I muted. Yeah, Rupert Hine actually was a good call for producing this album. He actually went on record as saying, and I think it's on Beyond the Lighted Stage, that he said with regards to Rush, he wanted to get them back. He said, look, you're one of the remaining power trios left. He said, you shouldn't be swathed in keyboards. So he really wanted to encourage them to go back, not old school, but to do a power rock with a more modern take. And the keyboards are still there.
Yeah, they're in the background though.
Yeah, and that's, and Alec Lifeson is more to the fore, which is great. You think, oh, Rush have still got a guitarist, which is good. You know, I think before I had my coughing fit, Hold Your Fire, I think, was a step too far. Rush do self-regulate, or they did self-regulate, they realised. So going back to this, I think it's been described, this album, as another transitional album. Probably, yes. They went back to the studio in Canada to produce this album, which they hadn't been there since Grace Under Pressure, which you've already mentioned. The band liked the material on this album. They said it was worthy of appreciation, but they felt that the final production was not quite as they had hoped. Some people say it sounds very thin, almost sterile.
Yeah, I would say it would,
because of the separation. But Rupert Hine wanted to do that. He wanted to keep the quality there that had been there with Peter Collins, and he has actually achieved that. He achieved that with on this. Geddy Lee explains, he's got his own quote about this. He said, by the time we did Presto, I was getting sick of technology and wanted to return to a more basic approach. We were lucky that our producer, Rupert Hine, agreed. So that's why it's more about the vocals than anything else, he says here. However, I have to say that the album didn't turn out the way that we had hoped. If there's one album we'd love to do all over again, this is the one. The songs are so much stronger than the way they came out. But, and we've already started talking, you've already started talking about Show Don't Tell. Despite its polarizing effect on fans, the album did sell well and provided Rush with their second #1 single in America. This track, Show Don't Tell. Bless you.
Yeah. Did I catch that just in time?
I think you did, actually. Yeah, you did. You just got there in time. So, yeah, after, say, their first #1 single in America was New World Man, this is their second, which you would never think, because it's more prog orientated, this particular track. A good way to open the album. As you say, it's quite atmospheric in the way it comes in, but then you get the power of the syncopated drums, bass, and of course, there's the guitar.
Syncopated. That's a nice word.
What's that?
Syncopated.
Yeah.
I've never heard that word before, but I've learned.
It's something us drummers use, you know.
Yeah.
Syncopation makes us sound intelligent, you know. It is a quite it says here funk metal inspired contemporary sound.
Yeah.
On Show Don't Tell, and I wouldn't disagree with that. It is a good confident opener, good guitar riff being the central motif. And it says here, it clearly marks Lifeson's return to the fore, and bravo and here for that. It's in his writing, Peart often employs a technique where he will use a phrase or saying and explore its multiple and sometimes unintended meanings. This phrase, show don't tell, is often used by tutors of creative writing to encourage their students to do just that. Peart at the time was taking writing lessons, which would eventually lead to the publication of his first book, The Masked Rider. Never read it. I've got to admit that. I don't know whether you have. Song's lyric describes a court drama, a metaphor for the judgments we make upon others in our daily interactions. It is a warning to both the credulous and the charlatan. You can twist perceptions, reality won't budge. And I agree with you on this. I think the lyrics are more of a return to form as well. Not that I thought that the lyrics were bad on Hold Your Fire, but I think they just got a little bit more substance on this particular album.
Yeah, I think the
Perhaps more inspirational, I would say, would probably be the.
I had a different take on the lyrics, actually. I mean, or interpretation of the lyrics, but I think we get it. I think you get it now more than any time, really, be it
Well, yeah.
any walk of life. It's well, lead by example. Stop telling me how to do things, and
Yeah, show it in your own life,
yeah,
sort of thing.
show it in your own life. You do it, and that is how I perceived it, especially
Yeah.
from some of the things. Maybe it's a little bit like that as well. Again, Neil, you know, and I suppose that's what the show don't tell part in writing means sometimes. Don't spell it out for the audience, just present it. And
Yeah, it's almost like just gently, you sort of spoon feeding. So
yeah,
there you go, there's a taster. You make of it what you will, you explore it. But going back to what you were saying about the style of this song, yeah, I like the dynamics of this song. It's because it really comes down where it goes into that sort of almost jazzy sort of little bass solo.
yeah,
Before it comes back up again. Yeah, I personally, it was really good to listen to this album. I hadn't listened to this album for quite a while, apart from like the odd song. But to actually listen to the whole album again and thought, yeah, it sounded. I think from where the previous album was to come to this, I think it sounds quite fresh. In
yeah.
some,
And
it sounds fresh in some ways to me.
what I found as well, what's returned on this album is the sort of little dreamy bits. It's the big, with like I say, in that little interlude bit in Show You Don't Tell, where there's a bam, 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 and
Yeah,
then you've got the introduction to Chain Lightning. It's just those little sparse little bits while the song breathes and then just comes together.
yeah.
But those little spacey bit, like again, the keyboards is still there, but they're not pushing the song; they're just filling
Yeah,
the gaps. But
they're playing a supporting role, really,
yeah,
in
that
that
little,
mid range.
as I say dreamy bits. But yeah, it's those little spaces are back, and that was one of the cool things about Rush. It was, you know, even with if a song is more commercial or more accessible than something like Caress of Steel, those little parts are what makes Rush set apart from their contemporaries, really. And yeah, that's back in this album. You know, it's the little touches that I felt were lacking in that last album. It just felt like it feels like we're doing an album this time, whilst Hold
Yeah.
Your Fire just felt like 12 singles. You know.
Well, yeah, that's what you said last time, didn't you? You
Yeah.
said that on the last one. You felt that it was just a. They felt like they were putting an album out for the sake of putting it out.
I think we've got like a bit of a melancholy feel on this album as well. I don't know if it's just the time of year we're in at the moment, where it's constantly grey, it's raining off and on, the weather's horrible, and it's just that ugh feeling in the morning. And I feel like this is actually quite a fitting album for this time of year. It's got a bit of a wintry feel to it.
Well, it was released around this time of year anyway,
Yeah,
so yeah,
and
probably has got that.
Chain Lightning starts off again with the nice airy bit at the beginning before coming back together. It's got a bit of a jingly jangly riff and an annoyingly catchy chorus. I'm constantly going dun, 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 dun. I don't even know what the lyrics are to it, but the melody sticks in my head for ages. I've been humming it whilst emptying and filling up the dishwasher. Let's have a quick look at it. Sun dogs fire on the horizon. Meteor rain stars across the night. This moment may be brief, but it can be so bright. Yeah. And that just completely passed me by. I was just sitting there. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
Yeah, it is. It is annoyingly catchy. This particular song. Yeah, I mean that the extended chorus was it reflected in another source of light. When the moment dies, the spark still fires, reflected in another pair of eyes.
Yeah.
Is that yeah? It is though. It's just that tiny little melody that sort of it just hooks you in. It just brings you into it. But it's got them nice heavy bits on it as well. And I think I've got what's the comment I got down here? Oh yeah, it says here the interplay between the song's pop melodies and darker alternative rock demonstrate the strength of Leon Lifeson's writing partnership on this particular song. It's Lifeson's, and yeah, obviously right at the end there, you've got this really deep. That's nice. Right at the end, that is Alec Lifeson's voice, which has been pitch shifted before the big
Yeah, that
accent
didn't
finish.
shock me. Yeah.
No, that's Alec Lifeson on there, which is a very rare bit of Alec Lifeson, a vocal as such. It says here, the guitar very dominant again. Unusual guitar solo on this one is made so by the decision to completely reverse the part. Perhaps one of the reasons why this song was never played live.
Ah.
When they say reverse, I think they reverse the effect on it. So it will probably logistically a very difficult thing to be able to emulate live in a live situation. So
Yeah.
there we go. Yeah, this particular song is inspired being a weather fanatic, or he was a weather fanatic, and this song has had the chance to reference numerous weather phenomena to serve the song's lyric. It's about moments of wonder or beauty that are magnified and amplified by the presence of another. So there we go. It says about individuals briefly responding to an event that they may have witnessed on their own, but when someone else is there to share it, the spark still flies, reflected in another pair of eyes. In other words, to be able to share it. So
Yeah.
that's the inspiration behind the lyrics with that. But yeah, again, I don't mind this song, and like you, yeah, in idle moments, I found myself humming this one. So yeah, as you said, it's got that annoying little hook to it, which you just not annoying, but it's obviously catchy, and you go back to it time and time
No,
again.
it's not annoying. It's annoying that I'm
Yeah, well,
constantly
that's what
humming.
I mean. It's not.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm
Yeah.
not.
I'm not saying the song itself is annoying.
No,
Like,
the song is not annoying,
yeah.
but it's annoying that I keep. Yeah, I keep going back to it. But
No, funny enough, I had one of those moments just this morning, actually, taking my youngest to school. It had been raining earlier, and then just as I was getting into his class, it just started spitting again. So it's hurry up. And then we'd spun round, and there was this perfect rainbow in the sky. So,
fantastic.
when he, and it's brilliant because they're never not enchanted by that. A rainbow. Look.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's move on then to the pass. I think this kind of brings up what I was saying with the melancholy feel about the album. This has got a very melancholy, especially in the opening calls, that dun 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 bang, that ringing of the guitar. I think this is a brilliant song.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
I think this is probably the highlight on the album. It's certainly the one I think most people take away from this album. What's most remembered for, but with a very serious point made in the lyrics as well.
Well, yes. Yeah.
I mean, the song itself is actually quite simple. Very, first chorus, interlude, last chorus out. it's one of Rush's more straightforward songs, but I think the real take on this is the lyrics. So I don't know if you want to talk about the music first and then get to lyrics.
Yeah, we can go to the music. I actually, just an aside, this is regarded by Geddy Lee as one of the best songs that they had ever written. The Past is a slow and reflective song, and it has little in common with most of Rush's famous work, but its tight focus is, as we've already alluded to, as you've already focused on, is Lee's delivery of Peart's powerful lyric makes it a highlight of this album, and to the band at least, probably a highlight of their songwriting career. It is held in high regard by all three of them, especially because it's all about the subject of suicide. The one thing Neil Peart would have said about this, and I remember a comment from him about this one, musically, yes, the arrangement and everything is simple, he said, but it is such you can feel the release and the tension within the music that absolutely reflects the lyrical content. It really is quite emotive, and it's the same with Alec Lifeson's solo on this. It is quite an emotive solo and beautifully done. Really sounds good. And again, it was always quite a high point in their live performance of this. It always down well. I think it was one that would come and go in on various tours, but again, a hugely moving song, really. And I think they said that they felt that themselves when they were playing this. You know, they're just naturally elevated to play this particular song.
It's a very sticky subject as well, because it feels, I mean, considering this came out in 1989, I think it was probably ahead of its time slightly with what followed in the 90s with grunge and I suppose depressive music wasn't invented in the 90s, mind. You know, you had Joy Division and I suppose the Smiths, although I think a lot of the Smiths are quite people seem to miss the humor in the Smiths, but there's with the subject of suicide, it seems to go too far one way or the other. There's no, it's absolutely unforgivable and la la la. But then on the other side, some people tend to fetishize it, and it seems that people that, especially artists, that commit suicide, tend to be fetishized, and this seems to just in the Neil, as he always does, just goes right in the middle and gives both takes. There's no it's a
it's almost glorifies it as such because of
it tends to now. It's just
it's a tortured genius, you know, and they were too good for this world or whatever, you know. And
but then on the other hand, you don't. It's not that you don't want to be sympathetic, but you don't. It's the absolute last thing was you shouldn't do it. Basically, no matter how bad things are. And your life isn't yours to take. And
I mean, some people would argue against that and say, "Well, it's my life. I can do what I want with it if I want." But it's a gift.
Yeah, and I mean, a brilliant. You know, if it does come up, I'll just say, but listen to a song by Rush called "The Past." And that's how I just end it now. But there was a great little monologue. There's a show at the moment called Yellowstone, starring Kevin Costner, and in that, the character, his son, goes out into the woods and goes to commit suicide, and Kevin Costner obviously knows what's going on and follows him without him knowing. And as he goes to do it, goes, "You're right there, son." And his dad's there, and he just sort of sits down next to him and doesn't really, he just sort of looks around and tells an old story about, I used to come up here with my dad and la la la, and just sort of change the subject a little bit.
Yeah.
And then he tells the story of someone that committed suicide, and he just sort of says to him, "Son, if you do this, that's all you'll ever be remembered for. Great people throughout history have taken their own lives, and be it a rock star who's wrote great songs, be it but no matter what they did, no matter who they are, no matter who they love them, it wipes everything out. And whenever that person is mentioned, the first thing anyone thinks about is they took their own life. So if you're going to go do this, that is a curse that you will put on yourself, and it will be all you are ever remembered for. And for my generation, the first person that comes to mind, you say suicide, Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
And it's the first thing you think of. Oh yeah, killed himself, didn't he? Not that's the guy that wrote "Smells Like Teen Spirit," one of the greatest rock songs ever.
Oh yeah.
And it's not remembered how when you watch like backstage footage or interview footage, what a funny guy he actually was. And and I guess the same with Joy Division. Really, I mean, they wrote some great songs, but you bring up Ian Curtis first thing, and that I thought that was a really true thing that he says in that show. It's like, if you're putting a curse on yourself because this is all you think you're going to escape everything. I mean, no, you're not. You're forever going to be remembered now.
Yeah.
For that.
I've got
again. I don't. We all know people in life and know tragedy. I hope we don't come across as unsympathetic or anything, but it's something that should be discouraged. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think people should be shamed for speaking out against it. And suicide's bad. You wouldn't want someone you love to do it. If you caught someone in the moment, you would talk them out of it. So
I
can't see why you would be insensitive to saying no, suicide's a bad thing.
No, it absolutely. There's a comment here by Neil Peart about this particular song. It says here the song, which deals with the subject of suicide, was particularly difficult for Peart to write. He compared the process to the writing of Manhattan Project, which involved an enormous amount of research, and Peart himself explained some of the process. He said, I spent a lot of time on it, refining it, and even more doing research. So I really worked hard to find true stories, what they felt, and why the people had taken this desperate step, and trying really hard fundamentally to understand something that to me is totally ununderstandable. I wanted to mythologize it, take the nobility out of it. Let's not pretend it's a hero's end. It's not a triumph. It's a tragedy. It's a personal tragedy for them, but much more for the people left behind. And it is very true. I do agree with that, especially as somebody myself in my past struggling an awful lot with depression and things like that, which can lead to it. But it's not the place to talk about it here. So yes, this speaks to me on quite a very, very intimate and a very personal level on this song, which is why I like it. It sort of reminds me that life is a gift and should treat it as such. And certainly with regards to people that you could end up leaving behind.
Yeah, as difficult as it can be.
It's difficult, even if you are as low as you can be and you're struggling with things and you're actually even just struggling to function as a human being. It's a very, very, that is a very, very final path to take, and there's no coming back from it if you obviously see it through. So yeah, it's I personally think this is a great song, and I agree with you. I think if anyone thinks of that, say listen to this song. Really, really good, really, really powerful, and I think that they absolutely nailed this song musically as well, and the music fits the lyrics perfectly. for this. I think everything's just absolutely in sync with this. And you've said it. It is an unusually simple song. Hints of their trademark sound are on offer to the listener, with Pitt's shuffling ride cymbal, Lee's use of punchy bass chords, and Lee's typically emotive guitar. There's another comment here. It says lyric references Oscar Wilde's Lady Windermere's Fan with the line, "All of us get lost in the darkness. Dreamers learn to steer by the stars." But the most powerful literary allusion refers to the Bible. Lee's impassioned cry of Pitt's perfectly chosen double meaning, "Christ, what have you done?" And that's the last comment I've got on this particular song. Yeah.
Nicely summed up. So let's move on to War Paint. And it opens on a slightly more upbeat note with the opening chord.
It does, yeah.
And but yeah, it has a nice mellow verse. And then it's got a nice little keyboard jingle in the, not jingle, but a nice keyboard hook.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice little slow down and build up in the middle as well. But then it's got that great chorus with "The mirror always lies."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is, and it's paint the mirror black, the mirror always lies. Yeah, it's almost adolescent, isn't it, in its in the presentation of it, you know, beginning with the girl before the mirror appraises her disguise. Child becomes a mother, tries to fix her eyes. No more of his excuses, it has to be today. She can keep her fantasy if she can get away. Yeah, really. And then the second verse, boy before the mirror checks his camouflage, polishes his armour and the charger's in the garage. No more lame excuses, it has to be tonight. He can take the princess if he can take the fight. Yeah, it's I think quite cleverly put together. Nice, quite strong. I mean, the real crash of licensed chords. It says here the influence of Peter Townsend can once again be heard after many years of absence. War Paint is another amalgamation of Rush's 70s hard rock with the alternative rock of the late 80s. While there is little in the way of technicality, Lifeson does offer up some short musical surprises. Its driving beat and snappy melody make it an entertaining piece, which it does really. It is quite catchy, and that little keyboard melody that's sort of in the background in them verses, it just, everything hangs together off of that.
Yeah,
really, doesn't it? It just, the emphasis is just totally different, and you get them big power chords coming back in. Says here the lyric plays with the ideas of perception, particularly the gulf between how we are seen and how we would like to be seen. Furthermore, the steps we take to try and bridge that gap. Ultimately, the song is about integrity and having the courage to accept ourselves as we are. Which is, again, I agree. I mean, I've got the big print version again of this album, so I can see the lyrics properly.
It's funny. I'm considering your Pete Townsend.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm only going by what's written in.
No, I'm just thinking it. Yeah, I think it would probably. When you listen to Pete Townsend's solo stuff, you can tell it's Pete Townsend, but you can also kind of feel, you can kind of hear a Who element to it, but it is. You can tell why he hasn't used it for the Who, but you can. Yeah. Pete Townsend is the Who, isn't he? There's always gonna it's always gonna have that feel, but no, when it comes to that boy and but like the it's like a crowd, like a group vocal.
Yeah,
I could imagine and then the mirror always like. I could see maybe Pete going, boys and girls together, paint the mirror black, while Rogers would come in. The mirror always like. That could probably work as a
it would
song.
I think it but I think it's possibly it's that, but I think also the guitar, that just them clashing chords, it's sort of reminiscent probably of some of the things that Townsend did as well, because I think on that, when I listened to that, I sort of picked out you got the heavy guitar, but there's also a cleaner guitar being played behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite reminiscent of the sort of things Townsend did, certainly on the earlier Who stuff. And I think it's making reference to that, possibly more than the lyrics and how the lyrics are presented. But I like this. I like this number. It's as you say. I think especially after the seriousness of the previous track.
Yeah.
This is sort of it's just a mood lifter, really.
It resets the room. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually does. Yeah, it really does. So yeah, again, a joy to listen to, and nice guitar solo on this. I do like the solo on this one.
Right, let's go on to Scars then. This is a good one. I'm going to let you take the lead on Scars. I'm interested in what you.
Right. Okay. If I must, it said here, and this is the one that sort of sticks out as still a little bit of electronic in this song.
Maybe, yeah. Okay.
There's a little use of the electronics in this. They said that they intended to make this album completely without the use of any real electronic stuff, technology and that, but the temptation to do so was too great. This is the most noticeable on Scars. While the intricate slapped bass groove may initially appear genuine, it is in fact a sequenced part.
Oh, okay.
Right, okay, because it does sound like the bass, but it's a sequenced one. From the song's conception, the band intended it to have an unusual rhythmic feel, and it is. It's completely different, even though it's straight 4/4 underneath with the bass drum. Peart is doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things over the top of it, which is a mixture.
That's why I wanted to hear your take on it.
It's a mix. It's predominantly electronics. It's electronic drums on this, with interspersed with some acoustic drums. It's almost like an exercise in. Again, I'm going to use that word. Very syncopated, and also. Some sort of African influences with regards rhythmically, and
I think in this part of the world, anything we see with a drum that's a bit of a like a bit of a loop, we just go African.
Well, but he does draw from that. He does draw from that. When you listen to the bits on there, it's very, and it evokes that sort of African, what's the right word for it? The African ambience, especially with regards to the atmospherics in the music.
I think they would get away as well. Maybe when they do this one live, they could, because with the bass as well, and it sort of goes, and then they could kind of expand it out a little bit, and maybe have a percussionist on the side. You can imagine someone like Phil Collins or someone like that doing this. They'd write.
It is strange that you should say that, because it says here they even considered bringing in a session musician to enhance Peart's traditional drum parts with more exotic percussion. But eventually, by sampling the sounds required, Peart was able to perform the entire part without overdubbing a single drum. And I recognise this anyway, but much of the Scars drum part has been adapted and incorporated into Peart's drum solos from then onwards.
Yeah.
It was always a part that he would play and bring in as a nod to this album and a nod to this particular song. They did play this song live, but I think apart from this tour, the tour of Presto, I don't think they actually played this song live anymore after it.
So they did it on the tour, but during his solo, he would incorporate a
yeah,
little bit.
like in future tours, he would
Yeah.
use bits on it, and it is famously part of his drum solo on Rushing Rio. You can hear it there.
Yeah.
Which he...
Bit by bit, I've been buying all the Rush DVDs. I've been cruising eBay during night shifts, finding one here and there that's a half decent price, sort of £5 or $6.99 at a time. There's gonna be many a long night coming up where I'm gonna be watching these.
Well, yeah, and they're well worth it.
Yeah, long.
Yeah, exactly, they're well worth it. What else is it saying about this one? Peart's lyric is another that is a move towards more personally expressive writing. Scars is a song it refers to is a metaphor for hidden and forgotten memories. A place, a sound, or a smell can immediately return one to the moment the memory was formed. Scars of pleasure, scars of pain, atmospheric changes make them sensitive again. In Scars, Peart makes mention, both in his drumming and lyrics, of his trip to West Africa, which would later he would write a book.
It all comes together. Yeah,
exactly, in that book, The Masked Rider, which I've already mentioned, and I've never read it. I've never seen it. So
I've only ever read the Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never read the Ghost Rider in entirety. I've only read excerpts from it. I've never actually read it.
Towards the end, it's more just it starts off as a diary of what's going on, but yeah, it's generally journal entries, and a big chunk towards the end is letters that he's wrote to people, like from wherever he was, because he didn't go completely off on one. He stayed sensible. But yeah, he was writing letters to basically just let everyone know he was all right. And not only that, he was trying to arrange visits with people as well. But yeah, the second half is predominantly just letters. So it's not...
Well, at that time, obviously, I mean, it's something we'll get to.
Yeah.
But obviously, he went on a very long and painful journey after the loss, firstly, of his daughter.
Yeah,
and then his
we'll obviously go into a bit more detail
and his wife. So so I think these were just little. I think he was just keeping the communication lines open.
With that being said, though, now we have brought that up, I think if someone, was to get offended by what Neil was saying in the past, it can't be said that he wasn't challenged later on in life by what he'd wrote in those lyrics.
No, definitely not.
Because what would then go on to happen to him? He would have to have held to what he said in those lyrics. I think that's worth pointing out. It's not as if
it's not glib and it's not flippant.
It's not an ivory tower
statement. No, it's also not exactly. It's something that he had to face himself, and with these lyrics, it's almost prophetic, really, because it's written before it all happened. But I'm just looking through the lyrics on this one. I mean, there's some great lines in this one. I mean, obviously, I've already done like the chorus, but just I'm not going to go right through the lot. But it says here, each emotional injury leaves behind its mark. Sometimes they come tumbling out like shadows in the dark. I get this feeling.
Yeah, great.
Just really. I just
think this is just a great song. The way it's just constantly building up and just going through. It's just a really good song structure, but it's different. As pedestrian as they can get in this era of their career, they can still challenge themselves and come out with something different. I think this would have been a great song live, and I think.
Oh, it probably was. I never saw it live. I never saw
Yeah,
it.
I
Right,
think that's
so I'll go on.
probably the biggest problem with this album as well. It's people talk about the production, and I know, well, actually, that was the production he was going for. But I do feel these songs. Well, I think I'm right in predicting that these songs would have come across a lot better live because they would have had a bit more kick to them, you know.
Well, yeah, and
Especially where Geddy himself has said that this is the album he'd probably like to redo.
yeah, yeah,
And everyone has that album, you know.
Yeah, I believe so. And you know, you say it straight out of his own mouth that he said he'd like to redo this one. And yes, I should imagine these would come across better live because they'd just be a little bit chunkier. And a bit like, I think it was a comment I said last week on Hold Your Fire. There's certain songs on that would come into their own, they come more into their own in a live setting. You know, they were just better live.
Yeah, that's a fair enough comment on that album as well.
And I think this is the same again with this one. But Scars is a bit of a hidden it's a little hidden gem to me. I think I know it very much highlights the drumming on this particular song, so I suppose that's why I'm naturally drawn to it. But I think that and just the atmospherics on this song. I mean, Alec Lyson's guitaring on this, he's really, really clever, and he seems to capture the emotion of the lyrics and everything in just the way he plays,
as he always does.
as he always does. You know,
and this as well, it's not so much the riffs or the playing; it's that, you know, it's the licks and the sound and the, you know, that's something.
It's the little incidentals and little backdrops that he plays that really just adds.
He always, yeah. He's a fantastic player, but he doesn't need to show off how fantastic he is. He always instinctively just knows what to do to serve the song, and
absolutely,
he's never overplayed. Alex is technical and wizardry that he has been and can do.
Yeah,
it's never gone to the point of, oh, for fuck's sake, come on, get on. You know, it's never. Every note needs. So when he is at his peak, you know, when I think on Hemispheres or something like that, even then it's exactly what that song needed, and I think that shows great character when he doesn't do it. There's no song doesn't need it, not doing
it. Absolutely.
While some guitarists would be like, no, I have to.
Yeah, there's a little space there, I'm going to put something in, you know, and look at me.
And that's why he's so underrated, because he doesn't.
Absolutely.
He doesn't go chasing it either. Yeah.
No, he doesn't need to. It just just superb. Absolutely superb. I don't think there was any other. Yeah, you could end up quoting the entire load of lyrics on this, but no, let's leave it there. No, a great little song, and quite a nice. It just gives it a slight different variety over the whole album, really. I mean, the other tracks have sort of been what they are, but this just slightly different flavour to it. So, no, I quite enjoyed this one, and you obviously did as well when listening to it. So,
yeah. So coming in, let's get into the title track.
Yes, Presto. Boom. What's your comments about this?
I've not really got much to say about this song, but that's not to say I don't mean it in a bad way. This song is just there. It breezes along quite nicely. It's got, you know, a great. Again, I think we're going to end up just talking about the lyrics about most of these songs because they just do what they have to do and get out. Really, there's not that much apart from Scars where we get a bit jammy, but they the songs are quite as far as simplistic as Rush get. But I think just the most thing that I can go, oh yeah, this bit's nice here and that bit's nice there and blah blah blah. But they're all just well structured songs. But I think the lyrics are the main interesting point of
Yeah,
conversation in this point. But yeah, the if I had a magic wand, I'd solve it all, but I haven't. So piss off.
yeah.
Basically,
Well, yeah. It is. So the title track, as you said, it says here, and obviously in this one, you've still got some synthesizer in this song. They haven't fully shaken off the electronic influences.
I
But
don't
again,
think they ever really do going
no,
forward.
not really.
It's
But
always,
it's been pushed down.
yeah, it's
And
always in the toolbox for when it's needed.
it's
Yeah.
there more as an aid and as a backup, really, and plays more, probably more in the atmosphere, and also just a backup and leave Alex really more in the central sound of it, and it's more periphery, but it's needed and they use it. It said here the temptation just proved too great, they had to. It says here it's the most noticeable, is, whilst it's most noticeable on Scars, you've got it here on Presto. Song simple chord progression fits with a lyric that, and it says here that at times does verge on being silly. If I could wave my magic wand, I'd make everything all right. Perhaps a certain naivety to it. However, on closer inspection, the lyric contains numerous expressions of authentic wonder. The verses are a more mature approach to the magic of reality. I am made of the dust of stars, and such lines, and the ocean flows in my veins. Yeah, so there's quite a lot there on that. It says here that the pre-chorus returns to the childlike wish for supernature. The song explores the gap between wishes and reality, and considers that while some of us do our best, most can do better. Confucius is saying it is better to radiate more light than heat. Is
Yeah,
referenced
good
in the song.
line. Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
humbly revealing one of the author's own shortcomings, which is Confucius.
And that reflects back to what we were saying about show don't tell. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe radiate a bit more light rather than heat, rather than just,
yeah, yeah.
great line.
It is a great line, and say the way Pieter's used that is very, very, very cleverly done. Was it? Yeah. Don't ask me, I'm just improvising. My illusion of careless flight. Can't you see my temperature's rising? I radiate more heat than light. He's just flipped it round slightly. He's just flipped it round, not just slightly. He's flipped it round. Yeah, I see them play this one live. It works quite well. The dynamic of it, because obviously you've got them big accents, and then it goes back to like an acoustic guitar in that first verse, just almost folky, and then gradually it builds up, which is probably signature Rush, really, just gradually building it up. Says here, the album titles track begins with elements of soft folk pop. The song provides plenty for the band's traditional rock fans as it develops into its blazing finale. Again here, a brilliantly succinct howling guitar solo from Lifeson precedes the song's final chorus. Says, well, sorry, Joe. Go on.
No, go on. No, I thought you was finished. Sorry, go.
No, I thought I was finished, but I've just seen this other little bit.
Go ahead.
While Presto may initially seem platitudinous and in some ways pretentious, the band's history of artistic honesty, coupled with the lyrics' detail, makes it clear that care once again has been taken. Presto rewards repeated listens, and to many fans is a much more impressive track than is first apparent.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm enjoying this album a bit more than what I'm enjoying Hold Your Fire, but it does still fall into like I said earlier, the talk show rock. And it, I don't know. I feel like this is the REM years, and as much as they're still doing their thing, and there's more stuff to grab onto with this album. What I'm saying with this is the REM years, this is the talk show rock years.
Yeah.
Comes in the next song, Superconductor. Can you think of a more better example of a think Conan and Bryan or Jonathan Wass playing a new single off the new album, and they always have the CD on their desk.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is I've got that in the book that I've been referencing. Normally this gives us off a little, but they actually talk about Superconductor, where there's actually polarizing views on the song. So I thought I'd read this out. You got two different people that have. One's a Canadian session musician, and the other one is that guy that's like an uber Rush fan that's wrote a couple of books and put together a board game or something. No, the guy that replicated the himself has replicated his own Neil Peart drum kit. But yeah. Where is Superconductor? Because one sort of he holds the thing and then the other one just goes, nah. So Superconductor was Presto's biggest song. I wouldn't agree with that. Would you say it was a successful single artistically? With that riff, it's kind of son of Red Barchetta. To me, it feels very much like Rush attempting a single, if they ever attempted such a thing. It has all those elements. It's still got the progressive thing, but there's that goofy pseudo-spoken Superconductor, which they kind of went for in spades on Roll the Bones. There's a goofiness in there, but the changes are sophisticated, really, like so many in there. It's really melodic, really vocalist orientated. Great lyrics, too. Neil is calling bullshit. I always thought it was about politicians, evangelists, movie stars, but basically Neil railing against artifice. And then he goes, I'm glad you asked. No. Superconductor is an awkward, clumsy little tune. It starts with a cowbell plunk and goes into that riff that just isn't quite heavy enough to pass for what it needs to be. I feel I can speak for every Rush fan now and again. Sorry, I feel I can spank Rush every now and again. Listen, I paid my dues, he's put in thing. And that's one of those songs that I can spank them on. And I don't think the public related to the same way they did on Show Don't Tell, which was a #1 FM mainstream radio single.
Yeah.
That was the Welcome Back Rush. We'll give you a #1. By the time you get to April 1990, when Superconductor was making the rounds at radio, the tour was winding down with only 2 months left. And you never saw this video on MTV. And that's it. You bet this is a video. I looked it up on YouTube. I can't find a video for Superconductor.
No.
I'll find a couple of live performances from various times, but yeah, I've never seen a video for it. When notable, Alex and Geddy switched sides on stage for the video. It was directed by Jerry Casale of Devo, who had done Mystic Rhythms, I might add. So they were already familiar with him and were fans of Devo. I think Devo, as much as Rush did the marathon sets towards the end, I think Rush supported by Devo, that'd be a pretty cool tour. But people were hearing Superconductor, and most don't know what a superconductor is, so they're thinking like a train conductor. And of course, superconductor turns out to be Neil's cute term for celebrity in pop with influence. So it's sort of what he was saying there: politicians, evangelists, movie stars. Almost the power to sway and fool, deceive like magicians. Designing to deceive, that's entertainment. Hoping you'll believe. That's basically the purpose of that song. I just think it was an awkward single, not a strong one. You never heard it in the concert since the Rolls the Bones tour.
Right, that's an interesting.
So you got two.
Yeah, it's a very juxtaposition of very polarized views. I'll quote what I've got in front of me from the book I'm referencing.
Yep.
Which is Rush song by song. It says here, nearly a decade after Spirit of Radio, Superconductor is Peart's scathing attack on the banality and dishonesty of modern manufactured music. Peart's habit of redefining words is once again demonstrated here, reimagining a superconductor as the invisible orchestrator of the performers under his control. So that sort of takes in everything in the entertainment industry, really. The illusion of art is there, but the packaged pop stars, and then you can add to that politicians, whatever, actors, actresses, are nothing more than corporate puppets. This upbeat melodic rock song harks back to Rush's trademark use of covertly unusual time signatures, and it has got unusual time signatures, slightly jagged. Like many of Rush's most commercial tracks, there is much more to the song than initially meets the eye. Thankfully, the underlying complexity did not deter DJs from playing the song that made the top 40 in the US mainstream charts. So I think even to make the
radio DJs,
yeah, exactly. I mean, to make it in the top 40 in US is no mean feat anyway. It wasn't as popular as Show Don't Tell, because obviously that went to #1. Rupert Hines' stamp is firmly placed on Superconductor with the skillful amalgamation of technical heavy rock and lush synthesized pop. Hine also adds his name to the song list of Rush's musical collaborators. Sorry, tripping over my words here. Musical collaborators with his, I get my teeth back in, with his layered backing vocals. It's him doing the backing vocals on this song with the Superconductor. So it's not Geddy Lee. It is Rupert. It's Rupert Hine doing some backing guesting on this particular song.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. And that's why it just sounds a little bit different. Live, I never see him play this live. I should imagine live, actually, this would probably come into its own a bit more. I would
imagine it would
a bit more chunky live.
I would imagine, yeah, but I'm surprised that it was only played.
Yeah, it was played on the Presto tour, and you said it was on the Roll the Bones. I think after that it probably wasn't used again.
I can imagine it being on radio though, because of the chorus. That's what radio plays. It plays.
Well, it is. It's quite an expansive chorus, isn't it? I know it's got.
Someone you and I both know from our work wrote a letter once to an MP about the finality of radio.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we have to cater to all tastes. And he said, well, you don't cater to mine. And but yeah, so I basically said that the form for radio is someone in a factory should be able to tap their foot to it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And superconductor, you can imagine superconductor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's quite true. I think especially if you're working in on the factory floor somewhere. I dare say it would be, wouldn't it? It's repetitive enough for people to latch onto it. That's it, isn't it? Really.
I remember as well in engineers' workshops and whatnot when they had the radio on, everyone would sing along to whatever the song was, whether they liked it or not. They didn't take that didn't really come into it. They just sang along to what was on the feed.
Which was always a source of amusement, because obviously some people can sing and some cannot, and so you get all these various interpretations.
I remember we had this. It was a CD player with like 2 cassettes in the front.
Yeah.
And on the we had one of them big long aerials that would extend out, and then someone tinfoiled a coat hanger and then stretched the coat hanger out right into the ceiling of this.
Yeah.
And eventually it got through to radio, but it was just a country.
Oh right,
country channel. Eventually, you used to get. I think we might have got Capital or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to have another radio that we had on the floor when we worked at weekends, because we always used to move these desk boxes. So this one we want 2, and our desk extended, or this one wants to be turned round, or right, we're cutting this one in half and putting a thingy on this one, and then this one's being moved over there, and and there was always a radio. But yeah, it was always singing along to the songs that they just knew, and they would normally, between a group of carpenters and electricians, we would amuse ourselves rewriting the lyrics, shall we say?
Well, yeah, there'd always be, there would be some, improvisation, let's say, to put it succinctly, to put it mildly. Yes, there would be some, and then of course you'd get them particular songs where you'd get this huge chorus that they would all unify and sing together, and it would just be well over the top, but amusing as well, and you end up joining in anyway. So yeah, it just yes, this is one of them songs that you could probably, with
Well,
that
one of the best ones. There's a song, "Even the Bad Times Are Good," and I remember I'd be surprised if he's even alive now. But yeah, George, he was the old cult, and he retired years ago. He would sort of nod along. Yeah. Even the good times are bad.
Well,
Even the good times are bad.
It just it just takes me back to when I worked in Marconi's, and it was effectively a factory floor, but of course you had different departments, and of course they were segregated off with partition walls, etc. But of course it was all open above it weren't all ceilinged in and whatever. And next to us where I worked, we had like a store area, and in this store area they had a couple of people working, but the supervisor was a really big bloke, like really big. He was carrying a few more pounds than he should, and I always remember the radio was playing, and it was Olivia Newton-John's "Physical," and you could hear this guy singing it away, and it was, "Let's get physical, physical, let me hear your body talk." And it was just but it just cut right above all the factory floor. It was just funny, it was just, you had to be there obviously to really the funny side of it. This big bloke singing "Let's Get Physical" was, it was just funny. It was just funny. We've all got them sort of stories, haven't we? It's I know we've gone off on some sort of tangent here about, it's all because of this.
I can't even remember what song we're on.
Well, it was because of a hook, the hook of superconductor. That was what it is, and people latching on to things that sort of stand out to them and then singing along to them. So that's, I think that was the connection, wasn't it? So sorry folks, we went off on a little trip down memory lane there. That's when I had hair, I had a lot of hair then. It goes to show how long ago that was.
I was going to say it, but I thought, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah, you're much too much of a gentleman, Joe, and I got in before you did. So there you go. Right. Do you want to move on to the next one?
I can't. So what are we on now? We're on Anagram.
It's Anagram is the next
right.
one. Yeah. What have you got on this one?
It's still the same, really. We're in, I don't know, it kind of gives up U2 vibes at the beginning, but it just
yeah. What have I got on this one?
We're in what David Bowie refers to as his Phil Collins years.
Right, yeah.
We're in the suit years. Peter Gabriel, David Bowie, Phil Collins. When they started wearing suits, that's where when we get in trouble. And I feel like we're in suits years now. This has got more buzz to it, but this song I feel is a very.
Do you feel this is more of a filler?
Yeah.
It says here, Rush's sense of humour graduates from the liner notes to an actual song title here. The for mongo, in brackets, suffix, being a reference to the candygram for Mongo scene in Blazing Saddles. This playful reference is indicative of the song's content, which is effectively a word game turned into a lyric. The second half of each line is made up with letters from the first. The song is in an esoteric way, does make sense, and some lines are quite effective regardless of their anagrammatic content. The night turns thin, the saint turns to sin, however limited by his wordplay, lines like cosmic is largely comic are somewhat jarring, it says here. Musically, the song demonstrates Rush's continued determination to embrace the simpler side of writing, focusing less on technical prowess and much more on melody. This carefully arranged song is a brilliant example of Rush as pop rock writers. Lee's decorative keyboards are extremely effective, and a short piano solo is an unexpected treat. When agreeing to produce Rush, Hine was keen to encourage Lee to adopt a lower, more traditional register for his vocals, arguing that this would make the performance of the lyric more believable. Anagram is an excellent example of Hine's success in this regard. I must admit, I was going to comment about Lee's voice on this, and it was Hine saying about making him just basically singing in a lower, more controlled way, perhaps, than all the high-pitched stuff that he's obviously renowned for. I think he definitely achieved that on this album. Some diehard fans would say, his singing wasn't as good when he just sung more controlled and low and preferred all the high-pitched stuff. But the fact that you have to look at people's limitations, and as you get older, it becomes more difficult to do. So singing lower, you're actually prolonging yourself in doing this. And I think that, to me, it's I think it's more of a sign of just being more mature in doing this. I mean, Geddy Lee at this point, obviously a lot older and wiser than what he was back in the 70s. So he's not the same man as he was before. So I think it is, a very wise thing to do. I think would he have been able to keep really pushing his voice at them high levels and high pitches for as long as he eventually did? I would say no. I think he'd probably really struggle with losing his voice with this. So no, I think Hine's influence and reasoning, I think, was spot on. I don't know what your feelings are about that. I dare say there are Rush fans out there who would totally disagree with that and say, "Oh no, it's a sellout," And
it's one of those annoying songs that's neither here nor there. It's nothing terrible about it. It's just not.
No, I agree.
I'm going to listen to it whilst listening to this album,
and
then that'll be that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same. I'm the same. I'm
not going to skip it, but I'm not going to skip to it either.
No. I think not. I think in some respects, I mean, this is my own feelings with regards to the performance of the lyrics on this. I think possibly it was even like almost treated like a research and development song, possibly for vocal approaches.
Yeah, try this out.
That's what I feel that this might be. This particular song, and I think even with the lyrics, with the comment of just using lines and then flipping them round and stuff like that, and wordplay. Again, I think it's just a song that they were using for development more than anything else. So, and I think it sort of comes across that way. I would say this is one of the weaker songs on the album, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, let's get into Red Tide then. This is a much more immediate song. I like that main piano, you know, and yeah, this is just as you could say just as pedestrian as some of the songs that I've been criticizing. Is but the difference is in this song it works.
Yeah, it does.
This one it does stick out, and it does. This one may not quite as rock, but it does roll.
Yeah.
But no, it's an upbeat song. It grabs you and pulls you along, and that nice little piano hook in it ties it all together, and quite an underrated quite a nice little solo in this one as well. I think.
Yeah.
That I think could be easily overlooked.
Yeah, definitely. I think Alec Lyson on this one, he sort of gets off the leash a little bit here, and he really goes for it. It definitely, but I mean, the comment here, and I definitely agree with it, is that it's quite frenetic. It's quite a short solo, but he plays it in such an urgent way. It sort of reflects the lyrics, plays it with an urgency, and the consequences of the song's lyrical content that it warns about. I mean, this is not a false alarm, this is not a test. So it is in stark contrast to the preceding song, an urgent dramatic piece. And again, Peart's imagery is in perfect synergy with Leon Lyson's musical composition on this one, which lads sharply synthesized horns and the growling organ. Says here, one of the most texturally interesting on the album. I probably wouldn't disagree with that, but I like you. I like the immediacy of this. It sort of immediately grabs you. And it says here, Peart had softly urged his listeners to consider ecological issues in Second Nature. Red Tide is an unequivocal call to arms, it says here, with this isn't a false alarm. It says here, with allusions to the AIDS virus, the depleted ozone layer, air pollution, and also it says here, the song's eponymous natural phenomena. The song is full of anger and frustration that have coloured much of Rush's most exciting work. Typically, the lyric finishes on a hopeful note. Now's the time to turn the tide. Now's the time to fight. Before paraphrasing some of Dylan Thomas's most famous lines, let us not go gently to the endless winter night. Yeah, I have to say, quite a clever set of lyrics, really, with this, and probably one of a fairly, considering this is 1989. Yeah, some might call this is a push towards being a green song, as they would say.
Yeah,
ecologically friendly, and pulling up ecological issues. So in that respect, I think Mr. Peart was sort of ahead of his time on that. I know things have been talked about with regards to that, but it really come to the fore there. I mean, things like Friends of the Earth and that were around at that point.
Oh yeah, we've gone from holes in the ozone to climate change now.
Yeah, exactly. And and now, of course, was it carbon footprint and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, but I think this does what it says on the tin. Very succinct and concise, in, out, and finished. It doesn't hang around too long to get bored with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is very much a return to how Rush used to be right the way back to their first album. So no, I think an overlooked number, I would say.
Yeah.
Very much so.
I do start warming up towards the end of the album. Actually, it goes a bit meh in the middle, but yeah, these last couple of tracks,
yeah,
I do much prefer. So yeah, you got a nice immediate track with Red Tide. again, then we've got Hand Over Fist. Kind of starts off with a sort of jangly, kind of reminds me of Prince, actually. Ding, 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 ding. But then we've got the nice, what I referred to earlier as dreamy synthesizers.
Yeah.
I like this is a nice spacey number. It's nice and mellow. It kicks in a bit towards in the middle, but yeah, this is the sort of stuff I'm talking about. I would have liked a few more songs like this on the album, I think.
Yeah.
In place of songs like Superconductor or Anagram. But this is one of the ones that it sneaks up on you, this one. This is a nice mellow song, and it's got gorgeous little solos towards the end. I don't even would you call it a solo? Just the way Alex licks the guitars out. Ding, ding, you know.
Yeah, I would still call it that because he's still expressing himself in that way. I think it's a nice. It is. It's an overlooked song. Again, it's another one that's overlooked.
Yes.
It almost starts. I mean, the comment here, and I always thought it anyway. It's almost funky, and you said Prince. It has got that slightly funky feel to it at the beginning with the guitar. And then you get that, as you say, them nice keys coming in, and it just gives it that width. Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind this song at all. It says here, yeah, sorry.
No, I just wanted to read the chorus because I couldn't.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, read it out. Yeah, go for
Hand over fist, paper round stone, scissors cut the paper to the bone. Hand over fist, paper round stone, scissors cut the paper, and the rock must stand alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get that.
I quite know what it means, really, but it sounds clever.
It is clever. It is clever. What have I got? It says here, surprisingly effective turn. The song uses the imagery of rock, paper, scissors to make its universal point. A closed fist is defeated by an open hand, by opening up to the world and others in it. The world itself expands. Of course, things are never as simple as this, and the song is not shy about the anger and pride that make reconciliation so hard. The song's redemptive bridge section finds the narrator doing his best to put his insularity behind him. I feel my spirit resist, but I open up my fist. Yeah, it's as well as the central rhythmic part, licensed soaring guitar solo is another chance for him to shine on the album, which is what the comment you made, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I like his little solo on this one. Doubters would surely be persuaded by his stellar work on Hand Over Fist that Rush, the guitar band, were back. Well, I think so anyway on this album as a whole. But I do like his solo on it, and he just captures the emotion of it quite right. Absolutely spot on with it. I was just looking through some of the other lyrics on this. Hand over hand doesn't seem so much. Hand over hand is the strength of the common touch. Yeah. No, some good. So I end up quoting all the lyrics and not careful. Yeah, I think things like again, it's about opening yourself up to the world around you. I thought I was okay alone. Wait for the postman and the telephone. Lost in a world of my own. I thought I could run alone. Thought I could run through the night alone. Yeah, just yeah. I've got nothing more to say about this one, to be honest with you. I just think it's
fair enough.
Again, it doesn't hang around too long for you to get bored with it. Again, it's quite concise, but there's a lot in there. Nice colours and textures in the song. Nice solo on it. Clever lyrics. Again, well, I mean, it's all, generally that's always the default position that the lyrics are good. So yeah, I've got nothing else to say about it.
All right. Well, let's get into the closing track then. Available Light. I think a very overlooked song, a hidden gem on the album actually. Starting out somewhat somber on the piano, and then builds up to a sort of mellow. Again, I feel this is quite a melancholy album, but then once it kicks into that main chorus.
Yeah.
Let me just grab the lyrics quickly. Sorry.
Yeah, go on, go for it.
When it kicks into the on the wind can carry all the voices of the sea. That one, and that kicks into a nice sort of beating chorus, and then Geddy just belts out the final line. The give me the available light. It's
yeah. It's one of them bits where it goes very rare that he went really high.
In the available light, and Geddy goes for it, and
it does. Yeah, well, I agree with you. It's definitely it's a track that I personally probably wouldn't normally think of, but when you listen to it, it just gradually builds, doesn't it? And it is quite. And again, I'm going to use the comments on here because it's just a lot more succinct than I will put it. It says here, a brooding, slow-paced opening is coupled, with the evocative imagery of urban canyons and howling winds that have been seen and heard in all things. Like many Rush songs, what at first appears to be a metaphor is in fact reality as radio waves pass through us and the space around us all, carrying data. Despite this infinite information, it is not enough to bring the world to us in waves or digits. It has to be experienced for real using the available light, which is the title. The term available light is used by photographers to describe shooting scenes without artificial lighting. And so it follows that Peart uses this analogy to explain his wish to experience things without filters or artificiality, but as they really are. And I mean, I know you quoted some of the lyrics. I was just sort of, as you were saying them, I was sort of scanning through some of the. I mean, just the verses on that. I mean, I know you did the chorus and then the high bit as well. How much of that did you quote? Did you quote all of it, or was it I want to look at life in the available light? I think is what you said.
Only referring to the note hits as he.
Yeah, it is a high note, and and then there's a couple of others where it always finishes. I want to look at life in the available light, but I'd say some of the lines in front of those on the various run-throughs are really, it is clever. I mean, I'll only quote the first one. They're all clever. You'd have to have a look at the lyrics yourselves, folks, but it says here, run with wind and weather to the music of the sea. All four winds together can't bring the world to me. Chase the wind around the world. I want to look at life in the available light. That was it. This is the bit I was thinking. This is like the verse where it cuts right back to the piano again. Play of light, a photograph, the way I used to be, some half-forgotten stranger, doesn't mean that much to me. Trick of light, moving picture. Is that a little nod to the album, do you think? Trick of light, moving picture, moments caught in flight, make the shadows darker or the colours shine too bright. And then it goes into the chorus. I mean, yeah. The one thing on this one, and I would have to add that Lyson adds to the slow groove and the dark tones with some really nice little bluesy licks on the guitar, and then a brilliant solo, brilliantly phrased and emotive solo on this song, which really sort of brings it up at the end. I really enjoy that. I think, and the way it just slowly fades out is really a nice way to finish the album, I think.
I just think it's quite clever as way the way the song develops, because when you take the sort of the middle of the chorus, when you're in the full flow of it, if you then just cut to the introduction, you'd think it was a completely different song. The way they go from there to there, and just those first opening notes of the piano, you think, oh right, this is going to be like a ballad or a slower song. And when you get to you think in the chorus coming up, you think, how do we get from here to there? And but as Rush do, they seamlessly is the answer, because that's what.
Yeah, and that's what they were always good at, and just really highlights just how clever and what great musicians they were and are. I think with a lot of songs, and I'm not saying it with a lot of songs are very flat, aren't they? They're sort of quite two-dimensional. I think with Rush and bands of that ilk, it's always three-dimensional. It paints a picture, and it goes somewhere. It evolves, and that's what I've always liked about Rush. It's always been quite purposeful and not just not formulaic. I know they've been accused of being formulaic on certain songs, but that's the exception rather than the rule most of the time.
Absolutely.
It definitely goes somewhere. So I think it is overlooked, and it's certainly one I wouldn't go to normally. But when you listening to it again, I thought, oh wow, yeah. And I think it even at the end there's a little ad lib, isn't there, on the words on the lyrics. I'll go with the wind, I'll stand in the light. And I think he just keeps, and then it's so the wind can carry, and it flips it all over the place really at the end there as it goes out. So yeah, I like the way that it finishes the album, and it says here, as the piece slowly fades away, it ends the beginning of another new chapter in Rush's history. So have you got anything to comment on it? Or?
No, I think we could wrap things up and sum the album up. But as I pretty much said, I think we're still in the era that we're in, but we're getting warmer, and it feels to me like we're going to come back to full circle, where Rush will eventually revisit the greatness of those earlier albums whilst incorporating what they've learned along the way and dropping what didn't work in the meantime. And this is a transitional album, I think.
And it is stated as that. It is an album of transition, definitely. What's it? Signs monochrome art direction, like the music, is a move away from the overblown technicolor of the mid-80s, but ultimately leads the artwork to have a drab feel about it. I mean, you've shown the cover. The bizarre choice to feature a levitating rabbit in a hat on the front cover is still a subject of bewilderment from many fans, but I think it's just a play on the title track, Presto, as in Hey Presto, or pull a rabbit out of the hat. That's all it sort of comes to me on that. I don't know what other people would think, but that's how I've sort of.
I think as well we're in that. It kind of carries on really with the era of the band we're in. I think a lot of the album artworks around this time, again at the beginning, it would be like, that's a Rush album straight away, and the artwork would be just as intriguing, or you'd be just as excited to see it. The unveiling of the front cover would be just as exciting as the music. But I feel along with the pedestrian radio rock, we get radio album covers.
I think it's more.
I mean, I get it. I got the Presto.
But
Presto.
That's what I got it.
Here's a hat with rabbits just keep flowing out. Yeah, Presto.
Would you say you prefer that cover to the Hold Your Fire cover?
Well, again, Hold Your Fire could be. There could be anyone.
But, that's true. That's true.
But then it looked like this album could be made by anyone, and it just went. Oh, the song title's called Presto. We're going to call it out. Oh, look at that! oh, that'll do. You know,
Yeah.
that
That's it. That's what sort of comes to me. Obviously, we've spoken about the reduction of the use of synthesizers, um, led to a diminished need for extra performers, but Hein is on there, solo additional musician credited for background vocals and additional keyboards as well as his production. Um, the magical theme is continued on the liner notes with a wave of the wand and a tip of the magical hat to the typically long list of helpers and encouragers. And I don't know why, but it says the album is brought to you by the letter D. By the letter D. Oh yeah, just
tunes
before
to
we,
or something
yeah,
like that, is it?
yeah, possibly, yeah. Chart positions. Canada, it was number 7. In the UK, it was 27, and in the US, it was number 16.
What
So,
about the tour? How many?
right,
How
the
many-
tour was, yeah, I did make some notes on this one. Again, it was another Canada and American tour only
Yeah.
with
Okay.
63 dates, and the songs they played off of this album on that tour: Superconductor, Show Don't Tell, The Pass, Scars, and War Paint. That was it.
What, 5 songs? That's pretty
Yeah,
standard.
it's about half the
Yeah.
album. And
Yeah.
and obviously this surpassed Hold Your Fire as being the longest album at this point. This comes in just over 52 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a couple of minutes longer. But again, I've got it on vinyl, but they've managed to squeeze it on vinyl in this case. But yeah, it's at this point, this was the longest studio album. But that's it. That's all the information I've got on this album. No, you've covered all of them bits and pieces about Peter Collins declining to do this album. No, that's it. I've got nothing else to say about it. To me, it is a return to form, but it's also a transitional album. And it
I
was
think
quite an
it's not.
enjoyable to
We're not.
listen to.
Yeah, we're not quite in the return to form just yet, but we are a step towards it. That'd
Yeah,
be
that's it. That's
yeah.
better put, actually. Yeah. Well done,
Right
Jack.
then, folks. Well, I think that concludes this week. We will be back next week with Roll the Bones. And yeah, this has been bloody hell. I'm having a brain fart. Presto. Yeah, this has been Presto, and next week we will be back with Roll the Bones. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. And as I always say, but it bears repeating, this is your show as much as it is ours. So, what do you think of this album? What's your favorite song? What's your least favorite song? Did you get this when it came out? Are you American or Canadian? Did you see him on this tour? And what's your first Rush album? You know, give us all your feedback on the lyrics, the drums, the songs, whatever you want. If this is your first show, we're doing a whole series. Go back to episode 1. Use us as your guide as you work your way through the Rush catalogue. Listen to an album a week, then listen to us, or listen to us as an intro, then spend the rest of the week listening to the album. Work your way through the Rush catalogue and do it along with us. You've got time to go back to the beginning. And bit by bit, we're building it up. I've just noticed episode 1, it's just gone over 100 views. So hopefully people are seeing it's a series, because it is on a playlist when you look on the channel. And then they're going, right, I'll go back to the beginning then. And hopefully that's what they're doing. So yeah. And if you've made it this far, do us a favor, give us one of them. It helps us in the algorithm. It helps us find an audience. Leave a comment as well, because that gives us interaction. And if you're having a chat with your mate about Rush, tell them, share it. And apart from that, have a good week, have a good weekend. And yeah, we shall see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Yeah. Cheers, folks. Take care. See you soon.
Bye for now.
Cheerio.